Wales is a part of the United Kingdom on the western side of the country, and it has a very long history and a lot separate culture to that of the rest of the United Kingdom in many respects. And so although we have enjoyed political autonomy for about 14 years now, the sentiment of independence goes back a long way behind that. When Wales was given a degree of autonomy back in 1999, an assembly was set up, and that is based in Cardiff. As part of that devolution settlement, the Welsh European Funding Office was set up. It brings together the managing authority functions for both the ERDF and the ESF in Wales. And as we look forward to the next round, we're looking how we can cooperate more closely with colleagues on the rural side to make sure that we deliver those funds in conjunction with, in particular, the Rural Development Plan for Wales.
In terms of how Wefo has moved towards more integration and working in a more productive partnership with the people who actually receive the money, the beneficiaries, has been an evolutionary process. We have moved to integrating the beneficiaries and potential beneficiaries more and more, and Wefo has changed its culture in terms of the way it approaches the partnership working.
Back in the latter part of 2005, there was a need identified where we needed to review our IT systems. We'd been the subject of our own internal audit teams and external auditors from the EC. So we were looking to develop a more streamlined process, if you like, to deal with structural funds. We had a supplier, or a number of suppliers, that provided the IT services for the Welsh Government. So when we came to contract for producing the revised system, we had a call-off contract, if you like, and we could use the in-house resources that had previously gone out. So the development team consisted of Capgemini primarily, but team from Welsh Government staff working closely with Capgemini to identify the business requirements and to work on the development and testing of the application. It is one integral system, so right from the start of the process where the sponsor applies for the money, right through the appraisal process, through to the payments at the end, all the payments are developed online, the claims are all online, and the final payments, if you like, are all interfaced electronically then to our finance system within Welsh Government, which produces the payment out to the final beneficiaries.
We've used the IT system to develop processes.
The Wefo website provides guidance for applicants on eligibility rules and project and selection criteria. Applicants are advised to ensure that projects fit in with agreed strategic frameworks, so that interventions will best deliver on the priorities of the operational programs. Sponsors are encouraged to submit project idea forms, and information provided in the project idea forms is posted on the Wefo website for interested stakeholders to view to aid collaborative planning. At this stage, the applicant can contact Wefo to discuss their ideas. Wefo also encouraged the applicant to contact their local specialist European team officer who can provide support through the process. Upon Wefo's receipt of a request to submit an expression of interest, a project development officer is assigned.
I lead a team of project development officers, which we call PDOs. The PDO role is very much a cradle-to-grave contact for project sponsors. And our sponsors come from lots of different areas. They could be higher education, they can be the private sector, the third sector, which is charities and voluntary organisations, or the public sector. When a sponsor has a project idea, we encourage them to put this idea onto our Wefo website so that other organisations with similar interests can contact that organisation and start discussions, start to collaborate. Sometimes this works and they come in with a bid with several different sponsors, but many times they come in on their own, because they've had the conversations, but they can't get anybody then to partner with them with funding. So they will come to the PDO, they will have the early conversations with regards to their project idea, where it fits, and then that project officer will tell them whether it's eligible for support, whether the activity is what we're looking for, whether there are other organisations that are actually delivering similar activity or support, so in effect it's duplication and we wouldn't support duplication, or whether there's contracts out there that they should be applying for, because there may be a large organisation which does a similar activity, which is tendering for services. So we will advise them to get a bid together to apply for funding via a different route. So there's lots of different areas that a PDO will have conversations in within that first meeting, just to establish the best option for that applicant. So structural funds may not be the best result for them. They may want to go somewhere else for funding, and we'll have that early conversation with them. If we find that the idea is something that we want to support, that will help the Welsh economy, then we work with them on going through the prioritisation selection criteria. So we will look at strategic fit with local policies, which will involve working with the set officers, the specialist European teams. We will look at Welsh Government policies to make sure that it fits with those, and obviously that it fits with the activities within the operational programme. We will work with them to have a robust project idea. We will also help that applicant with match funding to identify other organisations which may wish to support them with money or with in-kind support, which can be office facilities, staffing, specialist consultancy advice. We will identify all of this and work with that applicant to submit an application for funding. That is called an expression of interest. No ERDF funding will be committed at that point. It's just working up an idea to a point where we can see if it's something that will actually be able to go ahead, which is viable. We'll encourage that sponsor at that time to work closely with the set officer, because the set officer will be able to tell them on the ground what local support is available for them as well. Much more comprehensive than as a PDO we would be aware of, because there's lots of different areas, lots of different counties. We can't be sure of what support is out there. So they will be able to provide that local knowledge to that sponsor to make sure that there is no duplication and that that activity is eligible.
So, as the sponsor, I have been informed by Wefo that I have my project they like, and they want me to now submit the first part of the application process, which is the expression of interest. So I'm now going to log on to the Wefo online service, which will take me to the screens where I can start inputting the information. So now you can see these are the areas that I have to now complete in order to submit the EOI. I will enter into this case. It asks me things like what programme, shall I go on convergence, that's probably the easiest, you know, and what priority, next. It's quite easy to complete. Theme, next. And then strategic framework. Now, at the beginning of these set of programmes, we had a framework that people could go to so they could see the type of activity that they could be undertaken in this. So I'll just select that one because it's innovation and technology. What I wanted to show you quickly was I've entered these details as the project sponsor. Okay, and if I just move here as the PDO, once I click in there and in here, as you can see, I can now, because it's played it in real time, I can now see what the project sponsor has entered, which will enable me to say, oh, in your project aims, you put this is a project what do you really mean, and go back so that they can, you know, so they've got this relationship with the sponsor going on.
It's allowed the sharing of documentation, whereas previously there would have been a lot of paper files around that would have been shipped from one division to another as people get involved. This has allowed all the documentation to be held centrally and shared by everyone that has a need. So when the appraisal finishes their side of the house, then the documentation isn't moved physically, it's actually held electronically and it's available to all through the process. During the beginning of the development of the application process, the expression of interest process was half online and half the project sponsor submitted a document. A customer survey, and one of the customer survey responses was the amount of time it took for a project to go through the first stage of the application, and where they had to get a lot of evidence to answer all of the 12 criteria, and they felt that at the end of the process it took such a long time, and sometimes they were rejected and they felt that it was a waste of their time. In order for us to change this process, we engaged with some of the project development officers, and we also engaged with some of our sponsors. So when we explained to the sponsors that we wanted to make this process much quicker, and we wanted to reduce the burden on them as well, so they didn't have to send in all this evidence, and it would be a quicker process, and we wanted to use the online system more. They were quite happy to come in, and we took a lot of feedback from them, asking them about which criteria they thought that at this point that they could evidence well, and you know what issues they had before.
For the expression of interest that the priority controller agrees to progress, the project development officer will work with the applicant to clarify project proposals details in a business plan. In this phase, the whole 12 selection and prioritization criteria are applied as the project details become clearer.
And at that stage, when we have worked with all these internal people within Wefo and external people as well, we meet regularly with the applicant to make sure that at all stages they know the risks. Because the project sponsor takes the risk. It doesn't matter how many partners they have, they take the risk that if they're not compliant, structural funds will not be given to them, and they may have done a year's work of gathering market need, working with partners to ensure that they've got enough staff in place, and it could turn around then that we would say, you're not compliant, we can't give you structural funds. So it's important that at all stages we are open and fair with the sponsors to let them know the risks.
We had to acknowledge the fact that the partnerships that we operate in are not equal partnerships, that because we hold the purse strings, we have the offer of money, we were more often than not in a stronger position. But also recognising that if you want people to work with you, you have to look at what they need.
An example of a project that we delivered under this round of programmes was a third sector organisation, the Wales Council for Voluntary Action, and they took 2 years to get a project approved because they weren't compliantly set up to receive structural funds. They had challenges from private organisations on their procurement, and it was a lengthy process. So when the business plan has been fully developed and all our experts are happy with the content that's in there, we then make a formal recommendation, which is a report to the priority controller outlining risks that we've identified through that process. We will outline the positive nature, what policies it fits with, what that project will deliver on the ground, who the benefits will go to, what areas it will cover within the programme area. We will also identify what other projects are approved that will interact with this project. So it may be referral systems that are in place with large strategic projects. So this could be a niche project that will feed in to these larger projects. And we have to ensure that there's a good robust referral process so that nothing is missed, that no outputs are missed. So we will give all that recommendation to the project controller. He will look at the evidence that's been gathered and he will make two decisions. He will decide to reject that application because something is missing there. The risks may be too high, or the grant that they've requested may be too excessive. He will make that formal decision as to whether to reject it and suggest more work is done on that, or to take it into approval. Only at that stage is ERDF funds committed. Up to this point, it's all at the sponsor's risk, and that no funding is given, so they could have done all this work. But if he makes a decision that that project is developed enough and the risks are manageable enough, we will take it into approval stage. We will issue a formal offer of grant which says this is the amount of money that we're willing to give you, but with these conditions. So this now is the important stage for the project sponsor. He has been given the commitment of funding. What he has to demonstrate is that he's able to deliver what he has said in this plan. And that's why it's very important that the person that is designing this business plan is also the same person that is planning to deliver. Because during this round, lessons that we've learned are organisations have procured for somebody to develop their business plan, but they haven't been able to deliver it. And as a result, ERDF money has been taken from them.
You need to get an acceptance of those standards. So in order to get sponsors on board, you need to identify what sponsors need to be able to work with you. If you set a standard, you need to be able to have some assurances that those standards can be met. So in order to do that, we looked at how sponsors operated, the inputs they needed from Wefo, and we needed to be clear and transparent with them from the beginning that our expectations were that they would conform to the way that we wanted the programmes to run.
So we will hold an inception meeting with them a month after the approval letter has been given. The PDO and all the experts that were involved in the development of that project will meet with the sponsor and outline all of the risks and all of the conditions of grant that he has to adhere to. From that point on, the project sponsor will meet regularly then with the PDO and with the experts, if required, to ensure that at regular times throughout that project life, usually on a 3 or 6 month cycle, they will meet, they will discuss progress, they will challenge the spend and the indicator progress if Wefo feel that they haven't achieved what they've set out.
My name is Kerry Charles. I'm the Project Development Manager within Welsh European Funding Office with responsibility for sustainable transport. I'm also the Project Manager within Wefo for the A465 Section 3 dualling project, which is from Bramau to Tredegar, approximately 7.8 kilometres, with a total project cost of around about 190 million euros, of which around about 90 million euros comes from European Regional Development Fund. The project started in January 2013, but has been in planning for around about 19 years. And we've been working with the Welsh Government Transport Directorate, who are the project sponsors, for the last 4 years. The project itself will be completed by mid-2015 and will form the basis of a government commitment to have dualled all sections of the A465 by 2020. The current project is run by the Welsh Government Transport Directorate. We have 6 monthly meetings with them, which we've just started. They provide us with a progress report prior to each meeting, where we talk about what progress is made on the road, how this is working with the indicators and the outputs and the results that we have agreed with them, and whether there's any significant delays. We also work very closely with our own colleagues in equal opportunities to ensure that any road development meets the very strict criteria of making sure of equal opportunity for all, also sustainable development as well. That's a very key part of what we do. We also invite those colleagues to attend progress meetings with us, and we will be taking it forward in the future.
So the skills we would look for in a PDO when recruiting would be somebody that was comfortable meeting with people from all walks of life. It could be the directors from large private organisations, it could be the vice-chancellors of higher education, it could be third sector, voluntary organisations. So they have to be comfortable with a wide range of people. They have to have the ability to pick up and quickly be able to address eligibility queries. So they'd have to be able to look at regulations and be able to pick up the key points as to given advice what is eligible and what's not eligible, because the guidelines are very grey. I personally think it also has to be quite a caring person, because you don't want these projects to fail. You have to, in some cases, hold the hands of sponsors, be very supportive through difficult times where they may not have staff in place, they may need advice on procurement. They may get things wrong and have to have money taken off them. So it has to be somebody that's able to deal compassionately with these people, because these projects may be something that they care very deeply about.
In the next round, we're going to be more proactive. We will be much more able to build on the relationships and the understandings that have been built up within those partnerships, because the capacity of the local authorities, universities and so on that we work with has also grown a great deal since 1999. We'll be looking to build on those to understand how we can go out and find projects much more actively than we have in the past.